Now, the attacks you're seeing against myself, against Israel in general, it fucks up the Islamic domination world plan when they can't even conquer this little bit of land. Allah wants them to rule the whole world, to enslave all of us. They can't even fucking conquer that in their own Middle East. Wankers. So, when you think about it, Iran, each one of their missiles they fired the other day was £8 million. They are funding proxy armies, proxy influencers across the world. These attacks from the right wing, so-called, and the left, and the Muslims, all coordinating together, is well funded, organised, orchestrated, all of it. You can't even conquer this little 5'6" prick from Luton, or this in Israel. How are you going to conquer the world, you mugs? Allah fucking Akbar. World domination, you fools. Everything eventually turns on you. We awaken our population, the world awakens to see the disease that Islam is. We unite against it. You get fucked off back to the fucking Stone Age, where you belong. Basically, Islam.
Tommy Robinson's speech here uses a series of dangerous rhetorical tactics. He begins by framing police officers as victims of violence seeking sympathy, and then quickly pivots to conspiracy, blaming broad groups Muslims, the left, even proxy influencers for a supposed global domination plan. His language is deliberately inflammatory, laced with insults and stereotypes, designed to provoke anger rather than invite evidence-based discussion. On the surface, Robinson cites real concerns, reports of officers being assaulted and arrests made during protests, but he immediately dilutes these facts with unverified claims, such as the cost of Iranian missiles or coordinated world plots. Strategically, this is classic emotional diversion, starting with a tangible event and expanding it into a sweeping, fear-driven narrative. The consequences are serious. Such rhetoric risks inflaming social tensions, fueling hatred, and obstructing reasoned political debate. It also places pressure on media platforms, law enforcement, and public discourse to intervene against speech that could incite violence or deepen division. The key, when analyzing statements like this, is to separate verifiable facts, police assaults, protest arrests from exaggeration and propaganda. Robust political dialogue requires evidence and accountability, not sweeping generalizations meant to stoke fear.
Well, I think that Trump is sort of symbolic of what goes wrong when people have too much power, and also of people who are privileged, who are very, very rich, and who don't have very good respect for democratic values. And it's a bit different in the UK, obviously, because that power is handed over to the Prime Minister. But if we had a Trump-like Prime Minister with a slavishly loyal, MAGA-like backbench, we'd be in far more trouble than the US is now. The US Constitution is just about holding up in the face of considerable stress and tension caused by Trump's actions. But we have no checks and balances, no boundaries or guardrails in British politics if a Prime Minister with the support of their backbench wish to essentially get rid of our democracy, and the monarchy is part of that. The head of state would simply sit back and let the politicians do what they want with royal powers. So that's a big part of it. Another part of it is obviously that, as we said, corrupt billionaires are not the answer to anything. And like Trump, Charles has been accused of breaking the law. Nothing's been proven, but it's been accusations. There's been investigations by the police with relation to cash for honours. There's accusations of misuse of public money. There's accusations of contempt for democratic values, and of course, nepotism, because that's the basis of the royal family. So if people protesting today don't like Trump, then our message is, well, look closer to home, because we've got someone
no evidence. Graham Smith. Sorry, Graham, I'm going to interrupt you whether you like it or not. But at the same time, there's been a recent interesting interruption, hasn't there, from Maurice Glasman, the Labour peer, talking about how Donald Trump is basically Julius Caesar in the US and how he's bringing a monarchy to a republic. Do you want the UK to be a bit more like the US, where politicians can become kings?
No, I mean, in fact, what I'm saying is that in this country, we're at far more risk of that, because if a prime minister wanted to do that and had the support of their backbenchers, there was absolutely no barrier to it whatsoever. And whilst Trump is facing very serious barriers in the form of the US Constitution, the separation of powers, the states, there are no such barriers in the UK. So if we had that in the UK, we'd be in very serious trouble.
Now, you've argued that the UK's constitutional monarchy carries risk. You've argued that the US Republican system carries risk. Surely the whole point of a government is that they do have the monopoly on violence so that they can, if needs must, control population in a time of emergency. What political system can you think of where politicians have enough power but can never abuse that power?
Well, it's commonplace across Europe. So if you look at Ireland, if you look at Germany, when Germany, we had a hand after the war.
It worked out so well in the last century.
Well, no, the German constitution after the war was deliberately designed to avoid subsequent problems. We held a hand in designing it. The Irish constitution is a model that we look to. Places all across Europe have these models. They are stable and democratic. And in other words, what it is a parliamentary system, a democracy not unlike our own, but democratic. So you have a written constitution with boundaries. You have a elected head of state who guards the constitution but isn't governing the country, and you still have a prime minister with enough power to govern and to make decisions, but a parliament that can actually hold them to account and to actually have some independent authority in passing laws. So you disperse power, and not all power is held in the hands of one person, as it generally is in the UK with the Prime Minister.
When Graham Smith, CEO of Republic, declares that corrupt billionaires are not the answers to anything, he is striking at the heart of two power structures at once: Donald Trump's brand of populist plutocracy and King Charles's royal privilege. His criticism of Trump's state visit underscores the hypocrisy of rolling out the red carpet for a man weighed down by indictments and scandal, while ordinary citizens struggle with real economic pressures. At the same time, accusing the king of breaking the law cuts against the image of monarchy as a neutral institution, suggesting instead that the crown is willing to bend rules to accommodate political expediency. This is more than rhetoric. It's an indictment of how wealth and power are often shielded from accountability. Smith frames corrupt billionaires not as problem solvers, but as the problem itself. Figures who use money and influence to secure legitimacy in spaces where democratic scrutiny is weakest. In doing so, he raises an uncomfortable question for Britain. Why should institutions meant to embody fairness and continuity play host to leaders who thrive on corruption and division? The power of Smith's statement lies in its bluntness. It strips away ceremony and exposes the reality that, whether through monarchy or billionaire populism, concentrated power without accountability corrodes public trust.